So today I'm going to be taking a look at these 3D printing resins that Elegoo sent me. They also sent me a few other things to help test them, but these two are their water washable resin for when you don't want to mess with a bucket full of alcohol for cleaning it, and their standard plant-based resin for when you want something that's not as smelly and doesn't have as many warnings. And in order to check those resins out, they also sent me their Mars 5 Ultra printer and their Mercury X Bundle wash and cure machine. Thanks, Elegoo. This is a whole new world of 3D printing for me. So I guess the first thing I need to do is unbox these. I will spare you that. I'll just get busy, and I guess I'm going to need the printer first. So I'll get busy and do that. I'll go through a quick setup. If there's anything extraordinary that the manual doesn't cover about that, I will let you know. Otherwise, we'll bring you back when it's time to set it up and start doing things. Well, that took very little time to put together. I am impressed with the out-of-box experience so far. So on the side here, we have a USB connection, no SD card, just everything off USB. That's nice. Power and a Wi-Fi antenna. For now, I'm not going to bother with Wi-Fi. I'm just going to run it in offline mode. I haven't even bothered to install the software or anything. I'm just going to get the first print going here, which should be a demo print, which I'm hoping is on there. And I'm going to start with the water washable, mostly because I don't have a large quantity of isopropyl alcohol on hand. So I'm giving that a good shake. And oh, there's a nice seal on there. Where's my knife gone? Before I start messing with the resin, I will put on one of the included gloves. Open this guy up because I'm assuming it's going to be a little bit messy. Get some paper towels on hand just in case. And we will pour some of this resin out into the vat. Now, from what I've read online, the initial test print that's on there is not a huge thing. So I don't have to fill the vat right up. We're going to go maybe a third or so full. And you see there's that max fill line. You don't want to go over that. So one of the features of this thing that separates it from a lot of printers is this build vat actually tilts to help release the print from the film on the bottom of the vat. And because of that tilting forward, it may spill over the top if you got it too full. So that's why you want to keep it below that max setting there. But anyway, let's turn it on and just see what it has to say for itself on the screen. Well, we have a little bit of sound. After doing a bit of calibration, oh, it is still going through a self-testing calibration. Okay, well, we'll let it do that, go through all its different steps. Once all the self-tests are done, we come to this main screen here. See what's in settings. I'm not going to set the Wi-Fi right now, language, whatever. App settings. Okay. Picture units. Print mode. There's a high speed or a low speed. I'm just going to leave it on the high speed, which was the default. Tools. Manual adjusting things. And that moves the build plate up and down. Cool. We turn that to home. We have some cleaning modes here, self-tests, resin calibration, but that allows you to set up different test grids. Basically, it sets different exposure settings, and you set up a build plate with multiple of the same model on it. You set them to different exposure times, but I will deal with that later. Print mode, USB file, printing test, rock, which looks like that, which is actually a rook. That is a fairly standard calibration test print for resin, apparently. So we'll just go with that and watch it happen. And normally, you would want to do this with the UV resistant cover on, but all the lighting around here is LED and it doesn't have any significant amount of UV component to it. So I feel safe in doing this just without the cover on, at least initially. So what it's done is it's lowered the build plate down into the bottom of the vat. It's exposing it with UV light in the pattern of the first layer. The first few layers run for about 30 or 35 seconds or something like that. And once it gets above the first couple of layers, just to get them good and solidly stuck onto the build plate, it will bump up to between 2.5 and 3.5 seconds, depending on how they slice this file. So there's that tilting action. You heard the pop as it broke the layer free from the film on the bottom, and it lifted the build plate up a little bit. Now everything's leveled back out, and it'll be going for the next layer. This should be layer 3. You can also see one of the other cool features about this printer. Back in the back corner there's a camera that's pointed into the build area. It has a lot of fancy features, but the one that I'm probably going to be using the most is what's called resin lapse. Basically, it takes a time lapse of your print, but it doesn't start until a certain distance into the print because, of course, it can't see it. Basically, until the level of the build plate is above the level of the resin in the vat, because right now there's nothing to see. So I'm hoping that that's running right now. It appears to be recording. At least according to the screen, it says it's recording anyways. We will check on the flash drive afterwards. Although this print isn't huge, so it may not kick in time. So once this is done, we will come back and take a look and see if it succeeded. But while that's busy printing away over there, I'm going to focus on unboxing the wash and cure machine. And again, I'm probably just going to time lapse through this, because if it's anything like the other one, there's not going to be a lot involved in getting it unboxed and set up. A little bit more assembly than the printer, but not much. And we had to put 5 screws in each one of the light stalks in there, and the rest of it was just unboxing and away we go. And there's some spare screws. No, they're not ones that I missed. They are actually spares. So that's cool. Now we'll just wait for this guy to finish printing, and we will carry on. While that print is finishing up, I'll just quickly go through the manuals here. I'll put links to them down below if you want to peruse on your own. The printer manual shows all the bits and pieces that come included with it, including some spare screws, which is always nice to see. On the back of the cover, there is a panel that is removable that you can attach accessories to. If I find that the smell of the resin is too objectionable, I may attach a vent to there and just blow it outside, the same as I do with my laser cutter. But right now, I'm not finding it too problematic. So different people may have different reactions, though. There is all the parameters and whatnot. The resolution 0.02 millimeters, which compared to what is the Z resolution on a filament printer, 0.1 something or 0.2 something millimeters rather than 0.02. So this is going to be significantly higher detail. The build volume, 153 by 77 by 165 millimeters. It's not the biggest resin printer in the world, but that's fine. It's got a good price point, and what I'm probably going to use it mostly for is miniatures, small parts, maybe electronics enclosures, but nothing huge. Maybe even some model railroad bits and pieces. There's no tools or anything needed for installing and removing the build plate. Some older models you needed to thread in a bolt or run in a set screw or something like that, but this one is just a latch with a handle on it. Very easy. And then software. The USB stick has Chitubox on it, which is the preferred slicer for it. Chitubox is available for Mac and Windows and Linux, and I've got the Linux version installed. Also in the box, there was a 1-year license for the Pro version, but I have just been playing with the free version initially, and so far I haven't had any problems with it. I may light up the Pro version off the included card, but for now, the free version is doing everything that I want to do. And in the menus, there's firmware upgrades. I checked there isn't one available for this unit yet. It's still got the newest and current software on it, or firmware on it, so that's not a big deal. But you can do it either offline using the USB stick, or you can do it by the Wi-Fi if you got that set up. Nice that they allow you to do everything offline without having to connect to a cloud or anything else. Some printer manufacturers force you to use their cloud service in order to use your machine. I really appreciate that this one doesn't. And then a bit of maintenance and just some do's and don'ts and whatnot. Some cleaning hints and things like that. Lubrication if you need it. But basically, it's a very straightforward machine that doesn't need a lot of hand-holding. And I appreciate that. All right, print is done. So the next thing to do is take the build plate off and rinse it. But first, we'll just add this little drip tray that it comes with so that no resin gets onto the front of the machine. And just let a little bit more drip off there, if there is some to drip off. Actually, there's not much. So then we will go over to the wash station, which I've already put some water into. I'm just going to rinse the build plate off a little bit like that. Remove some of the resin. I think I will grab the spatula and, knock that off into the bin. There's 2 spatulas came with it. This one is sharpened, and that is what it's for right there. Just get it in at a shallow angle. You don't want to gouge the build plate. Just get in at a shallow angle and get under it and drop it into the liquid. I'm just going to wipe that build plate off for now and hang it back on the printer. I'll give it a more thorough cleaning in a minute or two. And now we'll just long press that to turn it on. We'll turn it up to, let's go about 3 minutes. And then push again, and it starts. You can hear the little thing whirling in there. Now the agitator is agitating and cleaning all the loose, uncured resin off the print. Okay, now that that is done, we'll pull it out, blow it dry a little bit, and then put it in the cure station. Apparently, if it's not dried properly, then there will be some white splotchy stuff. I'm hoping I've dried it enough, but we'll see. For now, we'll put the safety cover on, long press there, and we'll give that about 3 minutes. Again, these are experimentally determined. A lot of the videos that I've been watching on YouTube say that 3 minutes is pretty good time, so there we go. We'll just let that spin in there for the next 3 minutes and see how it comes out. Right, let's see how that came out. And there it is, one test Rook print. I am quite impressed with what I'm seeing here. There is an awful lot of fine detail. Look at that surface. That's like glassy. Wow. That top surface, that is incredible. Those are some tiny little details. And the stair steps inside here, where are they close that I can see them? Can you see layer lines? I don't see layer lines. Okay, you can just barely make them out. on the curved surfaces, but not everywhere. And certainly not without the extra magnification. That is impressive. I've never actually seen resin prints in person. I've only ever seen them online. And wow, this lives up to the hype. I like it. And yeah, there is a little bit of mess with playing with the resin stuff, but it's not all that bad really. Especially with the water wash up resin, you don't need alcohol. That's pretty cool. I'm looking forward to experimenting with this plant-based resin once I get myself some alcohol. And I will do that over the next few days, or at least the next few days for me. For you, it's just going to be one fancy little transition, and I will do a bunch of other test prints, and yeah, we'll see what I come up with in a couple of days, or in a few minutes. Much time has passed, much printing has happened, and I gotta say, the more I play with this thing, the more impressed I am. And of course, the more practice I get with the various topics involved, the happier I am with my results. So here is that sample rook that was on the memory stick that I printed. The left one, the darker gray, is the water wash resin, and the lighter gray on the right is the plant-based resin. And as you remember, this was the very first thing I printed. I didn't really know what I was doing with the washing and curing. And there is a little bit of splotchiness on there because I didn't clean it properly and I didn't dry it enough. The one on the right, however, look at that. That top surface is positively glassy. I like it. But of course, that was just the pre-sliced model that showed up on the card. I printed a bunch of other things, including these two little test cards. This is one of the validation prints that is highly recommended by the resin printing experts. As you can see, this little point here comes to a nice sharp point in the middle with both resins. And I think, again, the plant-based resin comes out just a little bit sharper. You can see all the little pips and all the little holes on both of them. All these stripes line up at different angles. I am so impressed at the fine detail you can get on these things. And then I went into a few more prints that some that I downloaded, some that came from various different sources. I did a bunch of these cones of calibration just to dial in the exposure timings and whatnot. And I still have to do more of them because on this side, everything worked out fine, just like it's supposed to. On this side, these cones are supposed to be minimal or absolutely nothing if you've done it 100% correctly. But they are getting pretty close. And with a bit more experimentation, I'm sure I can get it perfect on there. Then I decided to print a few other things, such as these HO scale Pegasuses, flying horses. So HO scale is 1/87th scale. That's model railroad scale that I happened to model in. And both came out very well. Look at the feather detail on the top of the wings. You can see facial features and stuff. That is impressive. Though the first try, I got a little bit vigorous with the supports and removing the supports. And I broke this poor guy's wing off and his back hooves. Oh well, put him out to pasture. And just for reference, here is the same STL file that I did in PLA on my filament printer. At arm's length, he looks not too bad. You could clean him up, but that top surface is horrendous. The underside of the wing where the supports were is just nasty. But again, with a bit of file work and far enough away, I suppose you can make him look good on a filament printer. But these guys on the resin printer, they are just amazing. If you've ever played around in Blender, or if you remember the old Windows Pipes screensaver, you may recognize this teapot. This teapot is one of the earliest 3D modeled things from way back in the dawn of computing. So I just had to print it just for nostalgia's sake. Also, my daughter assures me that this is very close to Barbie scale, so that's cool. When my oldest was learning how to use Blender, this was one of the projects that they came up with, and this is a print of it in PLA on my filament printer. And then these two are the same model off the resin printer. That skinny neck, we just could not get that to print, so I had to print this in 2 pieces in PLA. But on the resin printers, I was able to print it just fine. And we have all kinds of detail, including the facial features and the ponytail on the back. These smooth top layers. And again, that lighter gray plant-based resin is even smoother. It came out even nicer, I think, than the water wash. Although I may still have not rinsed it properly for the water wash. I'm not 100% sure. I might have to reprint this one again. But still, those came out really nicely. This one I got a little aggressive pulling the supports apart, and I cracked the neck, so I just put a couple of drops of resin on there and shone some UV on it, and it's as good as new. And then for fun, just to see the details, I also printed her in half size. And the only problem there is I damaged the right hand when I was taking the supports off. If I was a little bit more careful, that would be fine, or if I could find it in the scrap piece, I could just glue it back on. And of course, I wanted to print something big, so I printed out this screw sizing gauge. This particular one's Imperial. I've already got one in metric that I've had for a long time that I printed out in PLA, but I printed this one out a couple of times. And because of the size of it, I couldn't print it lying down like this. I had to print it kind of standing up at an angle like that, which meant I needed this massive tower of supports, which came off very, very easily, very cleanly. And to me, they look very much like truss work. I might even save that just for a model scale piece of bridge girder or trussing or something, even though that is technically the scrap material. And of course, if you're testing a 3D printer, you gotta print a benchy. But since we're going for detail here, I decided to print the lattice benchy. And since that came out so well, I did a double-sized version of it. That is amazing, and I'm hoping that you can see through it. That is just amazing. Of course, this one floats even worse than the original benchy because it won't hold the water out. But it is such a cool little boat. And again, look at the top layer on the deck. That is just glassy smooth. Top of the stack. Wow. I'm not sure what else to say other than that I am super impressed with this printer. I'm especially impressed with this plant-based resin. This is really, really nice looking stuff. The water wash is also really, really good. And I think if I spent a little bit more effort cleaning it up, or maybe if I used distilled water to clean it rather than just tap water, I think I could get it coming out a lot nicer, even though it is still miles and miles ahead of any other 3D prints that I've ever handled. Anyway, yeah, this was great. Thank you, Elegoo, for sending me this machine to experiment with and to show off to you all, because of course you know that's what this is all about. I will put links to their Amazon sale page down below for both Amazon Canada and Amazon.com. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below as usual. Thanks for watching. Thanks to Elegoo once again, and I will talk to you later.